So I just finished reading this comic. It took me, I think, about an hour. I don't know. I got up, I got ready, and then I started reading. And then I left for work, and I'm here early, so I'm discussing this. Um, Captain America #3. It seems to be an iconic issue. I thought I had remembered hearing something about how Cap's shield used to be shaped differently, and it was like a an existing hero, but and then Marvel was forced to change the shape of it. So I don't know if they went in and edited and painted over for the first two issues, especially because I think the issues on Marvel Unlimited are like reissues or reprints of a sort, where they were able to go in and edit those things out because his shield is around in the first two issues and then it's around in the third one. But something I noticed in this third one is that this is the first time Cap throws a shield. And it was really interesting because he doesn't throw a shield in a comic first. He throws it in a short story first. In the first two issues of Cap, there are these, I don't know, page and a half, 2 page, whatever, short stories that tell. It's prose, It's pulp fiction in a novel form instead of comics. There's like an image that goes with it, but nothing very extensive. And the same holds true in this third one, except I noticed a couple things. One, this one was written by Stan Lee. I think the previous two were written by Joe Simon, but I'd have to confirm that. And in this one, it mentions Cap throwing his shield. And then in the final story that we get, because this Captain America comic books, it was an anthology more than anything, and it told 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 really Captain America stories at first, and then like a caveman story and something else. I don't know, weird stuff. I skip. I don't even read those. I'm just here for Cap basically. But in the third one, at the very end, he takes out a flying opponent by the use of a shield. And I tried to look at the writing credits or any of the credits really, and the app shows when you're looking at one book, it'll show related books below, and it'll show the credits there in full, or not in full. It just lists last names basically. And when I was looking at 3, I saw for 2, and then I saw for 4. On 1 and 2, Lee was not on there, but on 4 he was. So I clicked on it on issue 2, and then sure enough, on the third one it showed Lee, Kirby, Simon, and then other people who worked on the other comics or the other stories in this anthology. And I thought that was very interesting. I noticed in big, bold, prominent letters, Stan Lee is there on the short story, and then it got me thinking, well, the dialogue was maybe a little punchier. There's a little of that stuff where there's a drawing and then a caption describing the drawing. Is it possible that Stan Lee took over the art? And listening to a video by your boy Zach in response to NerdSync last week, I think he said that the reason that Joe Simon got Jack Kirby to work with him on Cap, for Timely Comics, was because Simon had a story idea, character he wanted to work with, but that he wasn't a very fast artist. So he got Kirby along to help, and I was wondering if maybe Lee took over writing and Simon and Kirby shared responsibilities drawing, and maybe that's why there's some inconsistencies in the drawing. This issue, the art overall looks great, but there are some weird little quirks that I picked up while I was reading, and I don't know, they just kind of stood out to me. Anyway, I know the mythos is that Stan Lee, transformed Marvel and everything when he did Fantastic Four in 1961, but I'm interested to see, you don't just become a good writer, you build towards it, because you got to write all the crap out first, and then you eventually write something really good, or what to leave out, what to include, that kind of thing, how to be concise. And I'm wondering how much of the, I guess, good potential was present in Lee's writing in these early Cap books. And I was originally going to only read like the first 3 or so. I think I was just going to read the first 3, but I might have to read more of these to see if they continue to be good, and if they continue to include more things that would be key to who Captain America is. Because the question that I'm asking, did Stan Lee make Captain America an icon or an iconic character, is based on the fact that if you take Captain America in his first 2 issues, and even to some extent in the first couple stories in the third issue, he's just a strong guy. He's strong, he's fast, he has very good hearing. Whoops, I forgot to mute that. And he's a noble guy. But there's lots of superheroes who were like that. There were also a lot of patriotic superheroes. There's a Liberty Bell from DC. I think there's even a Lady Liberty from DC. I think both of those are DC, and I can't remember all the others, but those are just some instances. Because anyway, I looked into that a while back, and I thought it was interesting that there are a fair amount of patriotic superheroes, flag-based superheroes, but most of them don't stand out. Most of them, your average comic book person wouldn't be able to remember. Oh, interesting. I did find a credit. Ha! In the Return of the Red Skull, that was Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Huh. I'll have to look more closely at the other splash pages to see if it includes who worked on those. But anyway, I think things that make Cap iconic are the fact that he throws the shield, and I'm not 100% sure what else. Maybe his Boy Scout personality, but I'm not even sure that's so much of it. I think really the visuals of him bursting through. It was interesting. Some of the images of him fighting reminded me of like the Marvel vs. Capcom game, how he like dashes through with a shield, and then obviously he throws it and it ricochets and stuff like that. And I kind of think like that's kind of the core of what makes him such an interesting character visually, because I think he kind of draws you in visually, and then probably the depth of the character actually makes him more interesting and keeps people enticed and wanting to know more about him and continuing his stories. And these are all war propaganda stories, and I think the cool factor, and then the fact that it was anti-Nazi, was probably enough to keep kids engaged. I mean, but these are exciting adventure tales throughout. I'm going through and I'm approaching all these things, as I keep saying, because I don't know Marvel history that well. And I'm just kind of approaching it humbly and kind of trying to forget what I know about the comics and go through and see and assess each one. Like, why is this popular? Why was Captain America a popular character? Why did he last? As I go, I'm going to get to I've been reading Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, and I'm eventually going to get to like Thor and Ant-Man and early Iron Man and stuff, which all came after Fantastic Four, and I want to look at those things and really assess why did they work. And I think Cap throwing his shield is one of the things that makes him really cool, and it's one of the elements that made him work. And of course, that was made 20 years before Fantastic Four, so it's kind of weird. But then what was so iconic about Captain America that they brought him back? I don't know. I'm eventually going to get to that, but I will get to the actual review as opposed to rambling and thinking like a broader view of comics in general. So it's funny that the cover boasts that there's 45 pages of Captain America action, but like 2 of them are prose, like I said, and then 3 or 4 are splash pages. You got this huge splash page with Red Skull, killing this phony Captain America and Bucky. By the way, the review for this is go read it. It's awesome. There's a lot of exciting stuff. Very cool things. It's very enjoyable, very fun. Took me, like I said, I think about an hour to read, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Maybe I'm a slow reader. I think I read comics slower than other people do, but maybe I also get to enjoy them more than other people do because I'm not rushing through. Yes, it's not a contest, guys. Anyway, so you've got your covers and your splash pages, and it's funny. It's 45 comics is a lie, and then Betty is on the cover, and she's supposed to be in danger, and she and Bucky are facing the same life-threatening danger from the Red Skull. She doesn't even appear, and I don't think Red Skull captures Bucky at all in this. I'm pretty sure he didn't. But even if he did, he wasn't about to shoot him through a rocket-looking thing like that was on the cover. But anyway, I think it's... I think each of these splash pages is a really great work. I'm assuming this is all Kirby, although, like I said, the credits are unclear, so I don't really know. But they all look great. They have great movement, like a very good vibe to them, and they were really exciting to see. And then, like I said, there's the one prose story in there. It's Traitor's Revenge, or Captain America foils the Traitor's Revenge, and that's how Stanley introduces unique elements to Cap that I think, like I said, great staying power. Funny enough, though, there were some I talked about there were some gaffes in the art, but there were also like some editing mistakes. Like there's this guy in a yellow trench coat. He calls a guy in a red trench coat with glasses and a pipe Bill, and then the guy sees something and he's shocked, and the guy in the red calls the guy in yellow Bill, and it's really funny because the odds of both of these men being named Bill and talking to each other are really low, and I think it was just a mistake by the letterer, or maybe even by Lee or Simon or whoever was doing the writing, that they said, attach this dialogue to this word bubble. I don't know how exactly that works, or if the guy doing dialogue. No, I would have thought they'd be letters. Anyway, so that was kind of a funny thing. That's more of a writing. That's an editing mistake, and it stems from the writing or lettering. And again, I don't know exactly how that worked, because some letterers were writers and some writers were letterers, I think is how it went early on. But there's a big mistake where Red Skull and his driver, they changed. The guy who's driving the giant drill, he changes from being a regular guy with a regular face mask to a guy with a really interesting designed face mask that kind of evokes a skull, and it's really cool. And the inconsistency, I don't know, it's funny. It kind of hit me as I was going through, and I wondered why it was allowed to stay, and why somebody didn't catch that. And the only thing I can think now is maybe Simon and Kirby were both doing art, and they were kind of passing off pages to each other, or hey, I'm going to take one, I'll take the odds, you take the evens, that kind of thing. I don't know. It's just interesting to me. Another fun thing, actually, so my light roast aside, there's some really great stuff. Part of the reason I love comics is because there's things that you can only do in comics that work really well. You've got this the smattering of newspapers, announcing that the Red Skull's back, that he killed somebody, whatever, and then you've got his head just floating there, and there's blue, whatever, energy, light, action, impact sign behind him, and if you dissect the image and you really think about it hard, it looks stupid, and there's no reason that should have been allowed to have been put into a piece of art. It just looks dumb on its own, but in the context of the comic, it feels good, it feels right, it feels impactful, it conveys the message through the visuals. Red Skull's menacing, these newspapers are spreading information about him, and he's just loving it, and all that's conveyed in that kind of silly image. If you take it to its if you really think about it hard, it's dumb, but the way it works is smart, and it's very clever in how it conveys all that information in a single image. So I talked a lot earlier about how the throwing of the shield kind of makes Cap iconic, but there's also some very punchy dialogue where it happens in the last story, where Captain America is fighting the terrible Moth. It says specifically, the butterfly's gun barks viciously as his bullets rebound from Captain America's shield with a ringing sprang. That feels to me like Stan Lee wrote that, because it's just so bombastic and punchy, and I don't know that it was all punchy and bombastic before this issue, as opposed to more descriptive of what was going on, but just, I don't know, there's something special about this set of pages, and I actually originally I skimmed through this issue before I read it, and I was really intrigued by the butterfly design. I really liked it. I thought it was great. Maybe that's because I'm into tokusatsu and bug-themed character designs and whatnot, but it really struck me, and I thought, that's good. So whoever did it, I'm going to give it to Kirby, because he's so great and so lauded by people. I'm going to say it's probably Kirby doing that, and it was really great design, very effective, very creepy. I liked how menacing he got to look on so many pages. But the great thing is, he's this terrible foe that Cap's going to have a hard time defeating, and things are really fraught. But then Cap just whaps him with his shield. He's too far for him to get to, so he just throws his shield, and it smacks the guy and takes him out, and that's just so great. We only get to see it ricochet the one time. It hits him, and then it flies off in a different direction, and actually they don't include this. It doesn't hit the wall and then come back to Cap, but it could have, and the potential's there. And I think some of the fun in comics and in storytelling is seeing how, when somebody has an opportunity to play with something, they can make it really cool by being fast and loose, and by just going with what feels right. And I wonder if in issue 4 he's gonna ricochet that shield a couple times and catch it, because that's gonna, when that happens, that'll be really neat. In the prose story, it sounded like he just threw it and knocked the guy over, knocked the gun out, or the knife out of his hand or whatever, but in and then you get to see visually with the butterfly, he knocks him down, knocks him out of the I recorded and stopped suddenly. Anyway, so he knocks him out of the air, and then it bounces off, and maybe it's going to hit the wall, and maybe it's going to come back to him, and maybe seeing the visuals in that as it hit the stands, that was something that the creative team, and I'm not just going to throw it to Lee, even though I'm wondering if maybe he was the guy who made the push for this sort of stuff. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe it was a collaborative decision. I've heard there's a lot of controversy about Lee taking credit for things that he didn't quite do, which is fine. I mean, it's not good that he did that. I'm fine with the controversy, and I have no dog in the fight because these are dead men who I don't know. I've enjoyed their work, and I'd rather know the truth than delude myself. But anyway, maybe the creative team saw this and thought, you know what, we can push this further, or farther rather, and we can make it even cooler and make Cap a more dynamic, more exciting character through doing that. So anyway, that's the conclusion of my review. I want to let you know, though, to stay tuned to Swinging Through Comics, because at the end of the month, like January 21st, or near the end of the month, the Stan Lee biography, the latest one that was just published in, I think, December. I don't read with my eyes very well, so I'm going to listen to the audiobook of it, and I'm going to be doing a review of sorts on it. A review, I'm going to be discussing it, I guess, here. And I don't know if I'm going to do that in one shot, or if I'm going to do it in multiple stages, or what. Maybe I'll listen to it once through, give my overall impressions, and then if I feel it's warranted, I'll listen to it again and dive deeper into certain things, or maybe just go over stuff from different sections of the book. But I'm very excited for that, and I think it should be a good thing, and that's just one of the things that you can look forward to. I will be continuing to the next issue of a comic I'm going to review is going to be Fantastic Four, unless Rise of Kylo Ren or the Abrams Spider-Man comes out next week, which I don't think it will. I think those are like 2 or 3 weeks away from the time of this recording. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to keep working through the older comics, and eventually I'll get to the point where I'm reading them as they came out through the 60s, like basically every issue, unless I really dislike something, then I'll drop it, because if it's no good, I'll let it be, and then maybe I'll look ahead to see when a writer change or creative team change, and maybe pick it up at that point. But anyway, like I said, I'm approaching comics humbly. If you know more information than I do about the history of these things and you want to inform me, I would definitely welcome that. You can drop me a comment anywhere. Let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and give you my my spiel for the end of the episode. So thanks for sticking with me. Check out mjmunoz.com for more of my work. I'm an aspiring author who will gladly accept your financial support through coffee, or you can buy merch from my Redbubble store. Swinging Through Comics can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, and mjmunoz.com/STC. Relevant links are in the show notes. If you had a good time, like and share this, subscribe and ring that bell to catch me next time I'm Swinging Through Comics.